We're going to investigate in this documentary what I've called disk theory.
Tesla shit on Edison, food should be in medicine. Started dropping elements, shit been crazy ever since.
Which is popularly known as flat earth.
Flatline, navigating the field of landmines. Black crime, black minds. There's no superior bloodline. Yeah. Fuck award shows, we need justice in the courtroom. When I get to talking real shit, they say you bugging dudes. Gonna take more than getting something trending on Twitter. It's gonna take more than fucking coexist, bumper stickers.
I hope you're as excited as I am. Here we go.
Dead in, sit back and let it set in. Hollywood love making niggas wear dresses. This is where I step in. And I know you don't wanna hear it. Niggas writing conscious lyrics just
The 10 issues that we are going to look into, or as I like to call them, the 10 items of interest for this documentary, are as follows. 1. The curvature of the Earth. 2. NASA. 3. Gravity. 4. The North Pole. 5. Planes. 6. Low Earth orbit. 7. Antarctica. 8. The sociocultural perspective of flat earthers. 9. The biblical perspective. And 10. On a flat earth. The first item of interest is whether or not there is a curvature in the shape of the Earth. There are two predominant models. The most popular is that the Earth is a oblate spheroid, generally ball-shaped, which would yield a curvature over a given amount of distance. The second, less popular, though still existent, worldview is that the Earth is disc-shaped and that we are on a flat plane. If that is the case, there would be no curvature over any given distance of miles. On a 25,000 mile spheroidal-shaped Earth, 1 degree of that 360 degree circumference is 70 miles.
flatline, is no superior bloodline. Dead.
The first area of interest, location-wise, will be in the islands of Hawaii.
I'm going to demonstrate that here in Hawaii, the Earth is flat. Now, I'm on the island of Kauai. Here's Kauai. Kauai is about 26 miles across. And here is the island of Oahu. Oahu is about 42 miles across. And the distance between Kauai and Oahu from center to center is about 108 miles, according to Google. The highest point on Oahu is Mount Ka'ala, 4,026 feet in elevation. Now here is a shot that I took early in the morning. You can clearly see Oahu off in the distance. Remember, this is about 100 miles away. This is taken from the Wailua River State Park. There's an overlook here. Clearly see the landmass. So, if we were on a curved Earth, just because of the curve, you would not be able to see this landmass. It's too far away. It would be below the horizon.
Flatline, is no superior bloodline. Dead.
There's another instance of no curvature. Joshua Nowicki took a photo of the Chicago city skyline, which was over 50 miles away.
Flatline, flatline. It's no superior bloodline. Dead.
This image was reported as a mirage. Specifically, ABC57.com meteorologist Tom Kroons reported that that image should not be viewable due to the curvature of the Earth. Popular media says that it was a superior mirage.
In the midst of confusion, myths and illusion, is it true when you do what you're doing? Is it true when you do what you're doing? Is it true when you do what you're doing in the midst of confusion? What's this illusion? Is it true when you do what you're doing? Is it true when you do what you're doing? Is it true when you do what you're doing? When my thoughts combine, clocks get caught in time. Defrost your mind, this pathless plot unwinds. Sometimes get lost and pay the cost to climb. Past mountain peaks through the earth's core where her fountain speaks. Just words to birds, but the verbs bounce and speak. Balance and teach, talents that reach. You're above conscious, consciously. Think responsibly, don't drink and drive. We smoke the ganja tree. Plants grown through sunlight seeds. Solarize, photosynthesize me. To no surprise, we rise with an infantry infinitely. That was meant to be an interconnected entity. Fly angel and free. Skies with 3 eyes, 2 fists and 1.
Very fascinating.
One truth, one philosopher's stone, one sphinx, one globe, one thought structure, one resolution. A drop of solution in the midst of confusion, using clear eyes to synthesize spiritual communion, spherical union. A miracle intrusion, boosting the fusion between seeing and illusion. Soothsayers slaying paradox with a pair of glocks. We share the crops with a pair of cops and tear the locks. We tear the locks off a paradox. In the midst of confusion, myths and illusion, is it true when you do what you're doing? Is it true when you do what you're doing? Is it true when you...
The image itself appears veridical. It appears true. It appears accurate. There should have been a few thousand feet of curvature between Josh and Chicago. You were able to see from the top of the Chicago city skyline all the way down to the bottom. This will only be possible on a non-curved surface.
Of a pasture, they plaster the stature and can't capture a factor, the before and after. Ain't the last word in your chapter. Universal patterns.
The last subcomponent to item interest number 1, which is curvature, is a scientific myth that many of us were taught as children. Perhaps you remember as a kid being told that we know that there is a curve in the earth because when you watch a ship go out to sea, at some point it goes far enough that it moves over the horizon and you're no longer able to see it. We were told it was going over the curve of the earth, and that was why we could no longer see the ship.
They don't disappear all at once. No, first, the bottom will disappear. See, the bottom of the ship is gone. Now we can see midway up, and then the whole thing disappears. Now, ships came back. They didn't fall off a table. So people realized that the world is curved.
However, nowadays, with high-powered optical cameras and high-powered telescopes, we are clearly able to see that when a ship goes out of view of the range of the human eye, we can no longer see that ship. It goes out of our range of sight. We are told as children that that was because it was disappearing over the curve of the earth. But now we grab a high-powered camera and we rack focus to the same location where the ship purportedly disappeared, and it comes.
To Saturn. The path burns running from the sun with your back turned. Back in the urn to extract what you've learned. To attach, you return to all the cash that you've earned. Sins black and you yearn to turn them back into laughing. Perhaps you're asking if these additions are subtraction. Mass collapse in times of faction within a fraction.
Another favorite supposed proof of ball earthers is the appearance from an observer on shore of ships' hulls being obfuscated by the water and disappearing from view when sailing away towards the horizon. Their claim is that ships' hulls disappear before their mastheads because the ship is beginning its declination around the convex curvature of the ball Earth. Once again, however, their hasty conclusion is drawn from a faulty premise, namely that only on a ball Earth can this phenomenon occur. The fact of the matter is that the law of perspective on plane surfaces dictates and necessitates the exact same occurrence.
What that tells us is that the ship did not move over a bump in the earth, it did not disappear behind a curve, but it simply moved out of range of sight of the viewer. The next item of interest is NASA. So NASA was established in 1958. An item of note is that the Antarctic Treaty was signed in 1959. We'll discuss Antarctica in a later portion of this documentary. Also worthy of note is that Operation Fishbowl began in 1962. What is the shape of a fishbowl but something that you're looking to see if you can get out of? 3 years after NASA was established, both Russia and the United States began sending rockets as high as they could go and as fast as they could get them off. Some flat earth researchers believe Operation Fishbowl was designed to see how high rockets could go, because NASA was testing to see if they could hit the dome, if they could break the ceiling, if they could send a rocket out of low Earth orbit. An analogous modern approach to what may biblically have been understood as the building of the Tower of Babel. We were seeing how close to God we could get. Let's take a look at some images from Operation Fishbowl.
Operation Fishbowl was a series of high-altitude nuclear tests in 1962 that were carried out by the United States as a part of the larger Operation Dominic nuclear test program.
One objective concerned ICBM acquisition, tracking, and intercept problems. It was essential for both defensive and offensive planning that experimental data be obtained on the effects of high-altitude nuclear bursts on radar performance. These military objectives meshed into the overall Fishbowl objective of gaining a vertical scale of information for various altitudes and yields. Since the list of findings from the 5 Fishbowl events is a long and continuing one, with miles of records still to be reduced and analyzed, this report marks only a beginning in the Fishbowl Chronicle. Utilization of all these results must reflect the limitations of the Fishbowl experiment.
Perhaps the most interesting is the disaster of the Challenger 7 crew. This was an event that took place on January 28th, 1986. And essentially what happened is that 7 NASA astronauts died in an explosion when they attempted to launch into outer space. However, you'll notice from the footage that is to follow that all 7 of the astronauts did not die, that they continue to live today, that most of them didn't change their name, that 2 of them claimed they had a twin brother, and that all of them are still kicking around despite the fact that NASA.gov claims that these 7 astronauts perished in that event.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. You wanna go where people know people are all the same.
1986, the Challenger exploded just after takeoff and killed 7 astronauts. But it turns out that 6 of the astronauts are still alive. And most of them are using their original names. And you can find pictures of them. They're using the same names, and they're doing ordinary jobs now. Teachers, lecturers, lawyers, whatever. But they're still alive.
This is a highly suspect circumstance which deserves careful consideration. If 7 astronauts were reported as dead, when in fact they were not, that begs the question as to why that kind of deceit would occur and what it might mean.
Sons of light, bless what it means to be filled with life, no stress and our dreams were free. Tons of nights, fight demons fearlessly, and from this height, it's not what it appears to be. Sons of light, bless what it means to be filled with life, no stress and our dreams were free. Tons of nights, fight demons fearlessly. From this height, it's not what it appears to be. The news is a chain of lame views that explain how to choose which type of clues you should use for your brain. Pay your dues for the game, of loose change in a buck. Lace your shoes, chase your muse, make a move and you're stuck. From under every rule you fall, till all you abide. There's never been a pinch of input that I saw you provide. What if all of you tried, but never physically supplied? The liberty of ability, critically applied. What if history denied the present and future? Like waking yawn at break of dawn to the song of a rooster. For as long as a trooper can open his eyes, until the day they pass away, lay frozen and rise. There's no end to me, I'm an entity of energy that essentially creates storms to form an embassy. Remember me mentally, get rid of me physically, specifically exist to be the future of your history. Still a mystery to those who oppose the fact that your back's to those who expose. Like a Kodak picture, my flow's Jack the Ripper. I tear up tracks and then close back the zipper.
Rainbows bow to Bodhi trees, sorcery, the source of me. Source night, source light, solar force in me. Odic force, intercourse with universal centaurs. Avatars sing lunabars, the moons that charge the ruins of Mars. Words that be purposefully channeled by Mercury. It hurts to be immersed in the lessons of church and greed. Certainly versed in the patterns of murder and perjury. Inverted these curses with perverted lobotomies. Misogyny, with misogyny, it bothers me. Flexing Christ for property, not proper G. You can't make religion a monopoly. I got 10 reasons why you can't command me properly. Words from me, only a truth, not the truth. I see through seasons that seem to confuse you. You choose, dude, that's the fuse glue. That's the real you, then I'll feel you.
Sons of light, bless what it means to be filled with life, no stress and our dreams were free. Tons of nights, fight demons fearlessly, and from this height, it's not what it appears to be. Sons of light, bless what it means to be filled with life, no stress and our dreams were free.
So the next subcomponent to the item of consideration, which is NASA, is the notion that we may not have actually landed on the moon.
No way! That's great!
We landed on the moon! Start making stuff up. Yeah. Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows? Neil Armstrong, you mean the first man to walk on the moon? Talk about a fish story. Yeah. Man, and they're buying it. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hang, the drink the astronauts took to the moon.
Astronauts to the moon.
Okay, boss. This LTX-71 concealable mic is part of the same system that NASA used when they faked the Apollo moon landings. Yeah, the astronauts broadcast around the world from a soundstage at Norton Air Force Base in San Bernardino, California. So, work for them. Shouldn't give us too many problems.
The NASA lunar missions have come under great suspicion and focus over the last 5 years. 2 documentaries worthy of consideration are A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon and room 237. The first one shows how NASA may have faked the moon landing.
Up at the sky, could you actually see the stars and the solar corona in spite of the glare?
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar corona what stars we could see.
I don't remember seeing any.
Then there's the flag, blowing in the wind, at least twice, on the atmosphereless moon. We can only guess that most of the missions were staged inside.
South America becomes invisible just off beyond the Terminator or inside the shadow.
Than I am, it is a fact that it's going to take some time, and I think we have to recognize it. They secured these large boosters, which have led to their being first in Sputnik and led to their first putting their man in space. We are, I hope, going to be able to carry out our efforts with due regard to the problem of the life of the man involved this year.
The second one focuses on Stanley Kubrick, who was purportedly the director of the Apollo landing footage. Apparently Kubrick was frustrated that he could not share this information with the general public, and so when he made The Shining, he put in some secret codes that indicate that he shot the moon landing, and you can look at those for yourself and decide if they seem veridical by watching Room 237. It's available on Netflix. Let's take a look at a clip from that movie now.
This is what a NASA launch pad looks like. Here's another image of a NASA launch pad. More specifically, Apollo 11 USA. Danny, Stanley Kubrick, is the Apollo 11 mission. In the book, The Shining, the room number is 217, but for the film, Kubrick changed it to 237. 381,600 kilometers converted to miles is 237,000. Room 237 represents the moon. Danny enters room 237, the moon room. This is where Stanley Kubrick films the Apollo 11 moon landing. Danny comes out of room 237. He has marks on his throat and his Apollo 11 sweater is torn. His mother wants to know what happened to him, but now he won't speak about what took place in room 237. Kubrick has been forced to remain silent about the Apollo 11 moon hoax.
A further item of consideration within the area of focus that is NASA is that many of the Apollo astronauts whom purportedly landed on the moon would not swear on the Bible saying that they had landed on the moon. Notoriously, Buzz Aldrin actually punched out the man that asked him to swear in the Bible that he landed on the moon.
Hadouken! Hadouken! Over. Hadouken!
In another interaction between this man and Buzz Aldrin said, "What are you talking to me for? I'm just a pilot. Talk to the administrator of NASA."
Well, you're talking to the wrong guy. Why don't you talk to the administrator of NASA? We're passengers. We're guys going on a flight.
So as you can see, the astronauts are merely pawns in a larger organization, engineering deceit and fabricating lunar missions.
If you walked on the moon, we're given the opportunity to swear to God that you walked on the moon.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to get the hell knocked out of you if you don't leave me alone.
So why don't you just put the end to the record in the argument and put your hand on the Bible, swear to God you walked on the moon.
Mr. Cybro, knowing you, that's probably a fake Bible.
The third item of consideration on our list of 10 is gravity. The most important thing to understand about gravity is that gravity is a theory. Theories have not been proven to be true. They are a holding place for awaiting proof. Theory of gravitation, as the story goes, was first enunciated by Sir Isaac Newton when he observed an apple fall to the ground from a tree. And he asked himself, What made that apple fall perpendicular to the ground? Is there some force that was pulling the apple to the ground, or perhaps pushing the apple toward the ground? And to answer his question, he created gravity. Sir Isaac Newton was also a 33rd degree Mason, and his theory of gravity fit very nicely into the then burgeoning heliocentric model of the universe. Sir Isaac Newton's theory was later expounded upon by another scientist by the name of Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein wrote a paper wherein he described his theory of special relativity. Einstein's paper was called On the Electrodynamics of Moving Bodies. In it, he described basically how everything sticks to the surface of the earth and why. Now, you may know another scientist by the name of Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla called Einstein's theory of special relativity and his paper a mass of error and deceptive ideas. Nikola Tesla has over 100 US patents. He is the discoverer of alternating current wireless transmission of power, is responsible for electric cars.
100 years ago, the Rockefeller family basically cornered the market on oil, and the car industry was going electric. So, you know, all cars would have been electric from the get-go, but they basically forced everybody to use petrol cars, and have hidden this secret. And literally, you know, we could be running around in electric cars that have unlimited mileage by now, but we're still using these 100-year-old machines, dirty machines, because of a secret that's been kept.
So this is a man of great scientific heaviness. This is a man who has been respected by the U.S. Patent Office over 100 times. And he very much pointed his finger at Albert Einstein and called him and other believers in the theory of special relativity fairy tale spinners. The theory of gravity is so important to these fairy tale spinners because it gives explanation as to why people on the bottom of the earth don't fall off. A simpler explanation than gravity is buoyancy and density. Things that are heavier than the air around them drop.
Flatline, navigating the field of landmines, black crime, black minds, there's no superior bloodline, yeah. Fuck award shows, we need justice in the courtroom. When I get to talking real shit, they say you bugging dudes, gonna take more.
Things that are lighter than the air around them rise. Helium in a balloon is lighter than the air around it. That's why the balloon ascends.
I could go to Al Sharpton, I could go to Oprah Winfrey, but what I found out, I was mistaken. I was wrong. They are not interested in the healing of any black people.
An apple that's falling from the tree is heavier than the air molecules around it. That's why the apple falls. The only reason one would need gravity would be to explain how people on the bottom of the earth don't fall off.
Flatline, is no superior bloodline there.
The next item of consideration is the North Pole. As you all know, every compass in the world points north. In our current globe model of the world as the top of the world. In a disk model of the world, the North Pole is the center, and anywhere you are about that center, magnetic north will take you to the center.
The red part of the needle will always point to north. That's the magnetic principle on which it works. So the red part always points towards north, south is white. So if you're lost somewhere, what you need to do is you need to take this needle, put it on a firm base, and then rotate it in such a way, rotate the base such that the N comes below the red part, right? So there you go. So the N.
If you look up from either the top of the Earth on a globe model or the center of the Earth on a disk model, you look straight up, what star is going to be overhead? The North Star. That star is called Polaris. Polaris is a unique star in the entire heavens because every other star in the firmament rotates around Polaris.
And all the other stars revolving around it. This is just a brief introduction to the many observable, testable, repeatable scientific facts of our level, motionless plain Earth that have been suppressed and ridiculed for centuries in favor of various unobservable, untestable, unscientific theories purporting we live on a tilting, wobbling, spinning, ball-shaped Earth.
On a flat disk model, the North Star has always been the North Star and will always be the North Star, and Polaris has never moved, and all of the other stars rotate around it. On a spheroid model, the North Star is a pole star, but it's only been the pole star for about 12,000 or so years, and in about another 12,000 or so years we'll have a different pole star. Now, interestingly, we don't have historical record of there ever being a pole star that isn't Polaris, and we have no way of proving in the future that there may be a pole star that isn't Polaris. But currently, as far as history permits us to look, we have always had Polaris above the North Pole, and all of the other stars appear to rotate around it. On a globe model, that is caused by the rotation of the Earth. On a flat disk stationary model, that is caused by the rotation of the heavens above us. Let's take a look at the North Pole star. Heliocentric model of the universe, the Earth rotates around the Sun. That means that in the summertime, if you look up at the North Pole, and then you wait until the winter time, and you look up at the North Pole, the Earth has moved a distance of 250 million miles. The great astronomer Tycho Brahe pointed out that over such an incredible distance, there should be detectable some degree of parallax. Parallax would essentially mean a displacement of the perfect concentric star circles around Polaris, such that they don't look like perfect circles. Now, modern astronomers tell us that these stars are so far away that we cannot detect any parallax. However, Tycho Brahe and many flat Earth researchers believe that the stars are in fact much closer than we've been told. And this is why, whether you look at the concentric circles around Polaris in the summertime, when the Earth is a considerable distance from the Sun, or you look at the concentric star circles around Polaris during the winter time, when the Earth is considerably closer to the Sun, either way, you're noticing perfect circles around Polaris. Now, on a heliocentric model, this is very difficult to explain. On a flat Earth model, it's very simple. The Earth is stationary and it hasn't moved, and that is why there are perfect circles around Polaris. The heliocentric model was first proposed about 500 years ago by an astronomer named Copernicus. Nicolae Copernicus was a 33rd degree Mason, and he was a member of a club that was looking to rent the power from the church. Up until heliocentrism gained ground, everyone believed that we lived in a geocentric universe. This meant that all of the planets and the sun and the moon all went around the earth, and that we were in the center. Copernicus was the first person to write in his book Revolutions that perhaps the earth actually goes around the sun. Now, Copernicus was so afraid of publishing his theory for fear of wrath being struck down upon him by the powers that be, that he waited until his deathbed to release that book. And on his deathbed, it is also reported that he begged for forgiveness. Sounds great. Yeah. Okay.
Rain came down, the sky opened up. Guess what? God came through to say what's up. Rain came down, the sky opened up. Guess what? God came through to say what's up. Rain came down, the sky opened up. Guess what? God came through to say what's up. Beat, speak, heat, jogging. Feel free, be God love. Power is the love of thought. God is walking, fill that spot. She goes on into this thing. Tales of ancient, remembering that we are one.
Then along came Kepler, and Kepler remixed Copernicus's view, made it shorter, and it kind of went like, it was kind of like a viral video today. Everyone could read it, and slowly, from the progression from Copernicus and Galileo and then on to Kepler, heliocentrism gained ground and became the primary theory taught in universities, as it is today. Now, heliocentrism is still a theory, and it is important to understand that scientists are constantly updating their cosmology and their worldview to account for new data. So, the best way to conceive of science as someone who believes it's irrefutable, that's scientism. That is a bias, and that is a form of religion. That is someone saying there's no way that this is wrong. True scientists look at the data, analyze the data, and find a way to see if the data proves a theory correct or incorrect. And currently, heliocentrism is a theory which has not been proven. I suppose the last element to say about the North Pole is that there was a treaty formed. Let me check my notes. The Arctic Council was formed on the 19th of September 1996. And basically all the countries that are near the top of the globe, or on a flat model near the center of the disk, all got together and they made a treaty. And the treaty is designed to regulate activity in the North Pole region. There are many opinions as to what may be going on in the northern region. A few facts are that HAARP is located in Alaska, and HAARP is a weather study program that is funded by the U.S. military and DARPA. And some people think that the North Pole is a place where one can tamper with the magnetic structure of the Earth and thus cause undulations and affectations to weather patterns. So perhaps the Arctic Treaty is designed to keep people away from that region of the map, such that they may not have knowledge of these magnetic tests and trials. The fifth item of consideration is planes. Planes fly at about 30,000 feet. That's about 5 miles up. And they fly around 500 to 600 miles per hour. Okay, so if we know that on a 25,000 mile ball circumference Earth, 1 degree of the Earth's curvature is 70 miles, that means a plane flying at about 500 miles per hour covers about 50 miles in 1 minute. and in 2 minutes it covers 100 miles. So if a plane is covering 100 miles in 2 minutes, and 2 minutes is over 70 miles of Earth, that means that the plane should have to dip its nose down to adjust for the few thousand feet of curvature that is just passed over. However, you'll notice on your plane, when they take the seatbelt sign off and everyone's walking around and getting things out of the luggage compartment above, that the plane is flying level. Beyond the initial rise in altitude and the final declination in altitude, planes fly level. They fly level because they fly on a flat plane. One of the reasons you can confirm a plane is flying on a flat plane is if you look out, the horizon will be exactly at your eye level. If we are on a ball-shaped Earth and you look out from 5 miles above it, you should have to look down a little bit to see the horizon as it is curving away from you. However, you will find that this is not true. At 30,000 feet, which is about 5 miles up, if you look out the plane window,
that's dumb. Why fall in love? That's dumb. I don't wanna go get lunch. I'm just trying to fuck dick dumb.
You'll see that the horizon has risen to your eye level and that it is literally straight out across from you. This optical configuration is only possible on a plain, flat Earth. That is because the plane stretches far away from you, and as you rise, it appears to rise with you. On a curved surface, it would obviously reveal some amount of falling away from where you're looking.
Swear to God, I'm trying to find out what they want with me. I guess the music gave me human till they done with me. And when they done with me, next one, stage is agreed. You just on step one. Forrest Gump with the quotes done. Cheating, I'ma go Teflon. Paranoid niggas sleeping with the pump. Deep underground military bases, that's dumb. Bobby on the beat, that's dumb. I don't undersleep, that's dumb. N-U-M-B, I'm numb. In the studio getting blow to the realest shit I ever wrote. In a world where they give you with a Z, then say your ass the antidote.
So the third element about planes is that the Earth, we're told in the heliocentric globe model, is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. That means on a north-south facing runway near the equator, a plane should have to adjust for the west-east 1,000 mile per hour spin. This is due to the Coriolis effect. The Coriolis effect basically says that snipers over long ranges have to account for the spin of the Earth when they're aiming for their targets. The same physical situation exists when a plane is in the air. It is not tethered to the Earth. It is not connected to anything standing on the Earth. And thus, due to the Coriolis effect, the Earth should be spinning at 1,000 miles per hour beneath it. However, you'll find that when planes land on runways, that the only thing that they're accounting for is wind speed and wind direction, and that they do not factor in the Coriolis effect when landing airplanes. One final element to consider about this purported 1,000 mile per hour spin of the Earth is that if the Earth is spinning west-east, that means when I'm in LA and I'm flying to New York, the Earth is going to be spinning with me, and it's going to take me longer to get to New York. But if I'm in New York and I'm flying back to LA, the Earth should be spinning towards me, and I should get there very quickly. You will notice that this is not happening. Finally, flight routes. There are no flight routes over the North Arctic region. There are no flight routes over to the Antarctic region.
That's dumb.
And there are no flight routes from south of 30 degrees or so southern latitude, like anything in the bottom of Argentina or Tierra del Fuego or Melbourne or South Africa, Johannesburg, South Africa. If you fly between any of those two locations, there is not a flight route that goes directly east or west between those locations.
Oh, there's a night sky.
For specificity's sake, let's say you're flying from Buenos Aires to Melbourne. Well, there is no flight that goes directly east or directly west to that location. Any flight flies into the northern hemisphere, north of the equator, and then drops back down. On a globe model, that is an illogical flight route. On a flat Earth map, that flight route is nearly a straight line. The next item of consideration is low Earth orbit. Low Earth orbit is defined as anything between 99 miles above sea level and, let me check my notes, 1,200 miles above sea level. Now, an interesting thing is that NASA has reported 5 times that we have never been out of low Earth orbit. Let me say that again. NASA has gone public saying we haven't left low Earth orbit 5 times.
6 plus 3 is 9, 6 times 3 is 9, 9 squared becomes the wisdom of her breath in your lungs, the feminine eternal sum. I've been looking for the light people, the right people, nice people, right peaceful, type equal, equality, yo, you're equal to all of me. Let's climb the tallest trees and see beneath the deepest seas. As a master of ceremonies, I propose that
this next generation spacecraft will enable America to explore beyond low Earth orbit.
It's not a mystery our M's cannot see, the endlessness of eternity, an embassy of divinity. Sun pupils, a meteorite spoke frequently, tutorial in the Earth's frequencies. We haven't detected these deliveries. Deliver me from the past, I die, cause words are lies.
Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
Extinct like stardust, but stars don't rust. They birth from nothingness. Nothing is in us. We are thus thoughtlessness. Dropping thoughts in pits that's bottomless. Taught with myths that music is speech caught in bliss. My feminine during the end of times to send your mind a gem to shine. Why? You're a friend of mine.
I'ma pull out my feminine during the end of time and send your mind a gem to shine. Why? You're a friend of mine.
I pull out my feminine during the end of times to send your mind a gem to shine. Why? You're a friend of mine.
I'ma pull out my feminine during the end of time and send your mind a gem to shine. You're a friend of mine.
Take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit. So we have a really robust exploration program at NASA.
Unlike the previous program, we are setting a course with specific and achievable milestones. Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
That's a very interesting phenomenon because allegedly in the 1960s we went to the moon, which is 200,000 miles away. So if we went 200,000 miles away, why would NASA be reporting today that we haven't gone over 1,200 miles out of the Earth's surface? The reason is because we haven't, and this all harkens back to Operation Fishbowl and the analogy that Operation Fishbowl has with the Tower of Babel and the goal of man to try to build something that gets out of this realm that we've been put in.
Pushing out into the solar system. Not just to visit, but to stay. Last month we launched a new spacecraft as part of a re-energized space program that will send American astronauts to Mars.
Can't be distracted. What's going on with the war? What's wrong with the economy? Stop worrying about that. I got that under control. Just focus on space, nigga. The United States of space. Because I ain't stopping at the moon. Write this down. M-A-R-S. Mars, bitches. That's where we are going. Mars. Red rocks.
It's quite possible that the Earth is some sort of terrarium. In other words, it's an enclosed area that we have not been able to get out of since the time of the Tower of Babel, and still to this day, from Operation Fishbowl moving onward. Low Earth orbit seems to be a shield that we have not been able to penetrate. next item of consideration is Antarctica. On a globe model, the Antarctic region is the southern ice cap on the bottom of the globe. On a flat Earth disk model, Antarctica circumscribes the Earth and is a sheet of ice that goes all the way around the outer part of the CD, with the North Pole in the center of the CD, and the southern encompassing region, the Antarctic region, going all the way around in a circle around it. Now, it's important to note that a year after NASA was formed, the Antarctic Treaty was signed. The Antarctic Treaty was signed by 12 countries. It was initiated by the United States, and it was also ratified and joined by Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Chile, the French Republic, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, the Union of South Africa, the USSR, the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and Northern Ireland. So these 12 countries got together and they said, okay, no one else can join our club that isn't approved by all of us. And I just recently read the treaty, which was signed on, December 1st, 1959. And in the treaty, it basically states, all right, this is the club, no war in Antarctica. You can only have peaceful operations in science. The power of the treaty begins anything south of latitude south 60. So on a globe model, if you're going down to the 61st southern latitude, the 62nd southern latitude, all of those are included and are enforceable by the teeth of this treaty. On a flat model, you're going out on a plane, 61st degree latitude, 62nd degree southern latitude, 63rd degree southern latitude, and that region up until the Antarctic shelves are encompassed in this treaty. There's a special note in the treaty that all members of the Antarctic Treaty should essentially become friends with and align themselves with the mission of the United Nations. An interesting point of note here is that the logo for the United Nations is very resonant with the azimuthal equidistant map, which is the shape of the world as depicted if it is, in fact, a flat disc-shaped model. So the UN has a logo as a flat Earth map, and the Arctic Treaty basically says if you want to join this club, you got to be cool with the United Nations, and you got to like what they do. So there's an alliance going on between the United Nations and the Antarctic Treaty. For the sake of specificity, and diving a little deeper, I'm going to read a small excerpt. The treaty consists of a preamble and 14 articles. It was drafted, as stated in the preamble, in recognition that it is in the interest of all mankind that Antarctica shall continue forever to be used exclusively for peaceful purposes and shall not become the scene or object of international discord. The preamble also makes clear that the treaty is designed to further the purposes and principles embodied in the Charter of the United Nations. That is copied directly from the official document that was supplied by the U.S. Secretary of State. And the main point to draw from that is that if you want to be in the Antarctic Treaty Club, you got to be cool with the United Nations. So do your own research on the intentions and the objective of the United Nations. And if you already have, you may be able to draw some connections between Antarctica and the UN. In plain speak, they don't want us going there, and if everyone in that club doesn't give another country a thumbs up, they can't join the club. They can't go there. If they go there, they'll be arrested. If you try to go there of your own accord, they'll stop you and arrest you. If you want to go there like a tourist with a lot of money, you can go. It costs 50 grand. They have a preset route. They bring you to some fucking snow land. You take a few pictures and then you leave. And it's all written and prescribed. There is no freedom of exploration, and the information being acquired by the countries participating in the Antarctic Treaty has not been made available to the public. So, long story short is we don't know what they're learning there, and we can't go and find it out for ourselves. The next element of consideration is the socio-cultural perspective. There's a famous rapper from Atlanta named B.O.B. He used to be huge. In my eyes, he's even bigger now, but he's gone alt-stream. He did tracks with Nicki Minaj, Bruno Mars, all these cats. And now anyway, he came out as a flat earther. And Neil deGrasse Tyson was chosen as the poster boy to argue with B.O.B. And basically, if you want to understand how something is, look at the way it's being perceived and treated in the media.
If you spend any time on Twitter in the past 48 hours,
that's dumb. Why I fall in love, that's dumb. I don't wanna go get lunch. I'm just trying to fuck dick dumb.
Rapper B.O.B., perhaps you know him for hits like Airplanes and Nothing on You. He firmly believes that the Earth is flat.
That's
He's
dumb.
on a Twitter mission
Forges on
to
a
prove
coupe,
it,
that's dumb.
and he says he has
40 on the roller, that's
photographic
dumb.
evidence and that we've been
100 in a duffel, that's dumb. D-U-M-B, that's dumb. That's dumb.
You know, guys, first time I heard Nothing on You, I definitely thought this B.O.B. guy.
That's dumb.
Dumb.
I just tell her how it come to me. Gotta make it sound fly for the dumb niggas. I swear to God, I'm trying to find out what they want with me. I guess the music gave me human till they done with me. And when they done with me, next one, stages agree. Keep the song step one, force down with the balls down cheap. I'm a gold Teflon, paranoid niggas sleeping with the palm deep. Underground military base, that's dumb.
Where is the curve?
I don't undersleep, that's dumb.
B.O.B., if you're looking for the curve, you gotta come certain
in the studio getting blown to the
That is a man who did not deny science. He did not. Am I right? I'm not lying about that. Anyway, so this thing went viral, and even world-renowned super scientists in front of us. Neil deGrasse Tyson got involved and refuted some of B.O.B.'s record break nonsense,
Am I
which
paranoid? Picture
prompted
Malcolm X
B.O.B.
in
to
a
release
room
a
full
diss
of
track
pigs trying not to bust a sweat. Hey, Neil Tyson, he loosened up the vest. They probably right there, man. One hell of a check. Hey, I'm over here on this side of town. Come on over here, try to clown. Hey, I never pipe down. If they weren't coming for me, then they definitely coming for me now. I can't even keep my phone charged up. All the shit I'm talking, I should get my own barred up. Rappers, get off of my dick and get your own bars up. Vladimir and Liz's breath got the clone skirt, cuz use your common sense. Why is NASA Park Department of Defense? They divided up the seas into 33 degrees, feeding kids masonry. Bruh, be careful what you read. Flatline. There's no superior bloodline. Flatline. You got me once, but that died. Hey, voice. Do I have a voice? Do I give a fuck? Do I have a choice? Joint. I roll up a joint. Keep my shooters in the game like I hate to disappoint.
Is everything okay? No, Neil, everything is not okay. This B.O.B. BS about the Earth being flat is getting out of control. Can you
graduated to a club full of liars? Heliocentrism, you were the sixth victim. Fuck you and your team, you can sit on the bench with them, they nervous. But before you try to curve it, do your research on David Irving.
Listen, B.O.B.
Stalin was way worse than Hitler. That's why the police gotta wear a kilt.
One, you're not far enough
I'm a man first for an artist. Get a lawyer, look up Dr. Richard Sauter. Flatline. Food is for the last time. Flatline. There's no superior bloodline.
Will always look flat to little creatures that crawl upon it.
So you want to find the farthest point?
But this whole thing, it's just a symptom of a larger problem. There's a growing anti-intellectual strain in this country. It has nothing to do with global warming and melting. The end of our informed democracy. Earth, in a free society, you can and should think whatever you want. And if you want to think the world is flat, go right ahead.
3 people know.
But if you think the world is flat, and you have
row number 2,
influence,
they're off to a great start.
as would successful rappers,
when you spin
or even presidential candidates, then being wrong becomes being harmful to the health, the wealth, and the security of our citizens. Discovery and exploration got us out of the cave.
So it's not actually
and each
a sphere.
generation benefits from what
oblate.
previous generations have learned.
Officially, it's an oblate.
Isaac Newton, my man, said, I've seen farther than
it's
others.
slightly wider below
it's
the
by
equator
standing on the shoulders of giants.
Little chubby. Chubby's a good one.
I get an amen.
So, it turns out.
So that's right,
pear
B.O.B.
shaping
When you stand on the shoulders of those who came before,
bigger
you might just
than the
see
height
far
of
enough
Mount
to
Everest
realize
above sea level.
the Earth isn't
flatline. Food is for the last time. Flatline. There's no superior bloodline.
One thing every country can agree on, restricted access to the polls. Here's the UN. We believe you.
Is there restricted access to the pool? I mean,
They're super cold. You can go there.
like, are people banned from going?
None of this makes any sense.
I don't know. Maybe we're the ignorant ones. Maybe, you know,
So I have no idea.
So every mainstream news rag did an article on BOB. They said, "Oh, you must be high," or they said, "Oh, you must be joking," and they said, "Oh, you must be stupid." That was literally the shtick.
The news these days is crazy. Was anyone seeing the madness? I say the madness on Twitter, but it's all madness on Twitter. The B.O.B. the rapper. Oh, you guys saw this? B.O.B. the rapper. For those who don't know, he's the guy who had that song. It was like and shooting stars. That's all I know.
Airplanes. That song was written and produced before I ever got a hold of it. It was actually intended for Lupe.
Watching, yeah, he that a minutes Mojave, suicide route kamikaze. I don't blend in with nobody, the scapegoat, I guess I'm Bin Laden. Yeah, compared to Donald Trump, I'm neck and neck with the death threats, got the best vest and the best text, I need less stress and the best sex.
And then people were like, oh, you're high.
New photos are the best.
And he was like, no, I'm
too
sober.
short to be
And they're like,
depressed,
oh,
yes, but I'm too focused on the next step and I'm restless.
And then he tweeted it so much that Neil deGrasse Tyson, like the rock star astrophysicist, he got involved and he was like, hey, so, spoiler alert, this thing got sold 400 years ago. And then he was like, it's a conspiracy, don't let them hide. You know what's weird for me?
Dreams are made up, same thing that my jeans are made of. Real niggas on my team is made up. No day 2, day 3, just day 1. Pumping niggas moving the strings raised up. Fame is a drug, niggas fiend for a taste of. Broke hole, smoke all your weed. Snapchat they weed, then leave and the drinks to drink up. I aim to provoke. I don't mean financial when I say you broke. You broke in your heart. You lost in your thoughts and you broke in your soul.
There's no black science and white science.
Mentally
It's
stunning,
not like
more
there's
issues
white
than
science and then
bold. Doors open and
white
closed,
people have
but you wouldn't notice
black
it.
gravity is different. It's like, what goes up, man, you never know. It's not like that. And second of all, and like the other thing is, then people are like, this is what, it's not a white or black issue. They're like, the white man, it's like, no, don't. And they're like, yeah, they lied about the police, and now they're lying about it. Like, don't involve that thing with this thing. You know, if Black Lives Matter is like, no, we don't know them. We don't know them. They're like, yeah, shoot them.
Watching, I know they're watching. Yeah, he that a minutes Mojave, suicide route kamikaze. I don't blend in with nobody, the scapegoat, I guess I'm Bin Laden.
I'll share that with you.
Mainstream media is ridiculing anyone that is willing to investigate the shape of the earth. And the reason that is happening is that popular media, by and large, with a few small exceptions and occasional anomalies, is controlled from the top down by people that are sculpting a narrative that encourages the powers that be to continue to have power and encourages the worldview that that they promote. Just in general, if you Google Flat Earth, you're going to see something called the Flat Earth Society. That started, and basically it is a disinformation group offering some truths about Flat Earth and then peppering in very idiotic notions and very scientifically unsound contentions to essentially be the gatekeepers of the Flat Earth avenue. So people get on, they Google Flat Earth, gotta tick, 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 and they look at that, and they'll say something like, the Earth is flat, we can't find a curve. And you'll be like, oh, interesting, maybe they're on some shit. And then you'll go a little further, and they'll say, gravity doesn't exist. And you're like, oh, that's funny, I've been reading about gravity, maybe they're right about this. And they'll say, gravity doesn't exist, the Earth is rising at 9.8 meters per second squared. And then you'll say, well, that just sounds stupid. Oh, maybe this whole Flat Earth thing is stupid. Oh, why did I even pay attention to this? What was that on SportsCenter? Who just hit a home run? Oh my gosh, what's up with the Kardashians? And you go back to your life. And that's the trick. It's called a honeypot. It brings people in, and then it keeps them in a domain of thinking that has been pre-subscribed. So look out for the Flat Earth Society. Instead, check out the International Flat Earth Research Society, which is created by a great truther named Eric Dubé. I'm not here to build allegiances or to say someone is right or wrong. There's a lot of good information and research produced by Eric Dubé about flat earthers from previous time frames. So that is worth checking out. And then just in general, if you tell your friends you believe in flat Earth, they're going to think you're crazy. So that's what is going on. There is a huge taboo in questioning your cosmology. But you have to ask yourself, if you believe in Copernicus and you believe in the heliocentric model and you believe in the world that NASA and the popular governments of all the countries in the world are selling you, if you believe that, remember that there was a time when those scientists also believed the Earth was flat, and they were open-minded enough to look at some other possibilities. So if you subscribe to heliocentrism and you subscribe to the theory of gravity, and you subscribe to the notion that we're on an oblate spheroid, keep in mind that a good scientist is always willing to look at new information and new instances of data and evidence to fine-tune, tighten, and in some cases upend and reinvent altogether their perception of the world. So I believe there are good scientists out there. I believe there are truth seekers that see in me nothing but candor and honesty and a desire to know and curiosity and childlike wonder. And if you share those things, go do your research. Leave some comments below. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. Don't be discouraged by the popular media's treatment of a flat earth thinker. I prefer to call it disk theory. I don't make a claim that I know the shape of the earth. I'm investigating a theory that this earth may be disc-shaped. All of my research so far, everything's coming up flat. I'm not finding a curve. Gravity looks like an illusion. The NASA moon landings are a hoax. We got the issue with Challenger 7 and the fake deaths of 7 astronauts. All these people are alive and ticking today. NASA told you they're dead. That is a real contradiction. The first picture we ever had of the Earth as a globe was taken by NASA. That photo revealed a perfect marble. Today, Neil deGrasse Tyson tells us the Earth is an oblate spheroid and that it's a little pear-shaped, that it's a little fatter at the equator and below the equator. Well, that may be true, Neil. Then pray tell, why is the first photo of the Earth from space revealed to us a perfect sphere?
Flatline, navigating the field of landmines. Black crime, black minds. There's no superior bloodline. Yeah. Fuck award shows, we need justice in the courtroom. When I get to talking real shit, they say you bugging dudes.
Which way is it? It can't be a perfect sphere and a pear-shaped oblate spheroid. And if it's a pear-shaped oblate spheroid, as Neil deGrasse Tyson tells us today, then what is that photo that we were shown? Modern science is telling us that's not the shape of the Earth. So if that's not the shape of the Earth, what is that photo? And if that's not a photo of the Earth, why was it told to be a photo of the Earth? This is the lie that you get to investigate. Please do your own research.
They start, researching and getting a passion for this, because this is what I think, it's the truth. And we recognize the truth when we hear it. And we feel it. And this I believe, has come at the exact right time so that we awaken to what's going on in the world. Nothing else, 9/11 even, hasn't awoken people, right, to this extent. For me, I've been an atheist for 40 years. From the age of 13, I didn't want anything to do with God and Bibles and whatever and religions. And now I know for a fact there is a creator. There are only 2 possibilities. Either there is a God or there isn't. And both of them are terrifying.
Yeah.
If there isn't a God, then nobody's in control. We're hurtling through space and there's no plan and there's no nothing, and that's terrifying. If there is a God, then we'd better find out who he is and what he wants and do exactly what he says.
Consideration for this documentary is spiritual. Personally, we're going to dive into biblical passages. I was raised Christian, and it is interesting to me to look at Bible passages as potential evidence for a disc-shaped earth. If you are Hindu, you may want to consult the Vedas. If you are, Taoist, you may look toward the Tao Te Ching. If you are Muslim, you may want to consult the Quran. I was raised Christian, so I'm going to look at the Bible. Job 38:4. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. What I think is interesting about that is God's saying to Job, tell me if you have understanding. If you have understanding. So it seems to infer that God believes we can understand the foundations of the earth. But it will take research, investigation, and a rational mind, including and a faithful heart. Where a rational mind meets a faithful heart, man, that's the synthesis of the evolution of our culture, our species, this globe that is truly a world, that is truly a flat disk. That is what we're investigating here. I've come to the belief that the earth is flat. Now, a belief is not something that I sell to anybody. It's not something that I say I can prove. Now, what I can tell you is that I have evidence that indicates it's unlikely we're on an oblate pear-shaped spheroid. Evidence such as a lack of curvature. Evidence such as the phenomenon of a rising horizon, which only optically occurs on a flat plane. These evidences lead me to my belief. They do not prove a disc-shaped reality. However, if you're open to look into these evidences, perhaps your beliefs might change as well. Let's look at 1 Chronicles 16:30. Tremble before him, all earth. Yes, the world is established. It shall never be moved. Right here in 1 Chronicles, God is telling you the earth doesn't move. Why do you think every culture, excluding modern, Western, dogmatic, materialistic science, believed the earth was flat and stationary? Why? The Mayans, the Egyptians, the Chinese, the Sumerians, all of these cultures believed the earth was flat. The Hebrew conception of the Bible reveals a flat earth. There is a flat earth in every major culture since the beginning of time, with the exception of one: Western, imperial, dogmatic, reductive, materialistic scientism. And I add the ism because it is a religion. Scientists look for proof. Currently, we have no proof we are on a ball. And if you believe that photo from space is proof, you might want to consider whether you think we're on a sphere or in a pear-shaped oblate spheroid. You can talk to Neil about that. Let's look at Psalm 93:1. The Lord reigns. He is robed in majesty. The Lord is robed. He is put on strength as his belt. Yes, the world is established. It shall never be moved. David wrote the Psalms in Jerusalem from the top of the high tower, channeling God. And he wrote this beautiful poetry. And even David knew. This is a king of Israel. God told the king of Israel, you can't move this earth. It's stationary. And I speak to it like this because those of my brothers and sisters out there who connect with faith and who believe in God may appreciate the magnitude of what we're discussing, and that it is admissible in a cosmic court of justice as evidence of a flat, stationary, disc-shaped earth. Job 37:18. Hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong and as a molten looking glass? It's beautiful, this idea of the firmament as a molten looking glass. Some flat earth theorists believe we are in a dome and that the skies above are some sort of physical barrier between the waters above and the waters below. Genesis 1:6. Then God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. My view, which is a belief and undergirded by spiritual law, is that much like a womb in a woman whom is pregnant, is the earth. It is surrounded by water above. It is surrounded by waters below. It is protected by the bubble, and it is held within. And within is this sacred garden. This is the footstool of God. This is where we are. We're in this sacred, basically growing and gestating realm. And as the consciousness of the inhabitants, whom from God's perspective appear as small as grasshoppers, as this consciousness gestates, and as we learn more about our reality, God smiles on that. He said, they're waking up. They're getting closer to the truth. And flat earthers, just to throw a couple of coins in here, Wolfgang von Goethe, the guy who wrote Faust, Goethe, considered one of the smartest people to ever live. He railed against Western scientists. He thought there was a lot of trickery going on with their activities. Furthermore, Rudolf Steiner, the guy that started Waldorf schools, invented bioorganic farming, and was a huge proponent of the cultivation of bees and taking care of bees. This is one of the most brilliant Christian mystical adept lecturers that ever graced the plane of the earth. And he gave a lecture in, I believe it was 1912 or thereabouts, and it was called The Chaldean Flat Earth and Heliocentric Doubts. And in it, he railed against heliocentrism, and he railed against the astronomers that believed in it. And he basically said, pray one day there will be a group of young scientists who wake up, whom have the tenacity, the veracity, and the perspicacity to fight against this imperial, dogmatic structure, essentially this ideological worldview that has shrunk our conception of reality to a reductive materialistic viewpoint. He's saying, where are my astronomers? Where are you? Wake up. Come back. Let's do this. Let's investigate. Maybe you're one of them. Maybe you already are investigating. You would make someone like Rudolf Steiner very happy. Neil Tyson gets on Comedy Central to knock B.O.B. talking about we stand on the shoulders of giants. My man, Sir Isaac Newton. His man, the 33rd degree Mason that made that bullshit theory gravity. He stands on their shoulders. We stand on the shoulders of men like Rudolf Steiner. We stand on the shoulders of Job. We stand on the shoulders of David. We stand on the shoulders of Goethe. We stand on the shoulders of Samuel Rowbotham. We stand on the shoulders of great MCs like B.O.B., modern flat earthers, And like I say, this isn't a movement. We're not a community. This is an uprising of consciousness by people whom identify as truthers. And truthers don't only look for what they think it is. I'm not out there only looking at flat earth videos. I'm looking for the truth. And when I see something's awry, I dig a little deeper. This documentary is designed to present you with some of the evidence that I have found while researching disc theory. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Flatline, is no superior bloodline there.
We ain't seen no curvature all over this great big world. They told me that we lived on a sphere. Now it don't seem likely.
Well, is it like me to stay up nightly? Tip of the beat shining oh so brightly. A sight we but hold together like birds of a feather in bad weather.
Cause we ain't seen no. Cause we ain't seen no. Cause we ain't seen no. We ain't seen no curvature. We ain't seen no curvature. We ain't seen no curvature. Cause we ain't seen no. We ain't seen no curvature all over this great big world. They told us that we lived on a sphere. Now it's hashtag fair pay.
I'ma hit you with the truth, deja vu. Me and my crew always knew, flat through and through. While this snooze to the news, it's in our dues. What we do.
We ain't seen no curvature. Cause we ain't seen no curvature. Cause we ain't seen no curvature. Cause we ain't seen no. We ain't seen no curvature all over this great big world. They told us that we lived on a sphere. Now it don't seem likely.
Well, game one is done. New round, same sun. What same earth, new tongue. What wayward we
Cause we ain't
come.
seen no curvature. Cause we ain't seen no curvature. Cause we ain't seen no curvature. Cause we ain't seen no. Cause we ain't seen no curvature all over this great big world. They told us that we lived on a sphere. Now it don't seem likely. We ain't seen no curvature all over this great big world. They told us that we lived on a sphere. Now it don't seem likely.
No, it don't. Open to seeing it. Show us the curve, yo. Show us the curve.